Number one, the Kajido. I think, therefore I am. This has to do with Descartes' view of doubt. Descartes thinks we should doubt the world because our senses are flawed, and we therefore have a skewed perception of the world. This means that we cannot trust anything we know to be true. We are flawed just enough that we cannot take anything for granted. We can only trust our own senses if the outside forces of the world are all at the perfect optimal conditions for our senses. Thing is, we live in an imperfect world, and then also God made us imperfect. So all that doubting leads us to the Kajido. It is the question of I exist, I can think, and if I can think, that means that at least I have a body. I have I have a body, or at least I have a mind to think from. And I remember in the Intro to Philosophy course how towards the very end of it, we ended up talking a lot about, well, not a lot about, but like a little bit about the Matrix. And the Matrix is a really good way to describe the Kajido. I think that's like the whole point of the movie. In the Matrix, like, Neo learns to doubt the world. Because he starts seeing glitches in the Matrix, and these glitches lead him to doubt the world he's living in, because they're just crazy stuff's happening, and he starts doubting in everything around him. But the only thing he can't really doubt is himself. And because he knows that he's thinking, he knows that he's like seeing all this, and he knows that he's not part of whatever's going on, this simulation that he finds out is happening. So he must have something to think with. He must have a body, and he has a mind in that body, and it's sitting in a big vat of KY jelly off in this weird laboratory. And that's my illustration of the Kajido. And now on to Spinoza, number 6, the nature of emotions. Emotions are governed by the laws of the universe. God, or God, they're the same thing. God, as are all the modes that make up the substance of the universe, the one substance. So therefore, they will always be rational and explainable, which is somewhat the opposite of it's the opposite of what most people think, because most people would say that emotions are irrational, and that, like, their weakness, maybe something to that degree. And so, like, if someone went up to Spinoza and said, "Hey, dude, I'm sorry I was being a jerk to you yesterday. I was very emotional," he probably wouldn't really take that as an excuse. Wouldn't be an excuse. There'd be reasons for that person being emotional. And there are two kinds of emotion. There's joy and there's sadness. And every emotion is just a variation of the two. And the reason why they exist is because every living thing has a striving to stay alive. It's part of their essence. Or in Spinoza's technical terms, it is part of their conatus. As far as relating this to emotion, Spinoza thinks that joy and sadness are related to power, because you need power to stay alive. You need power to get food, to kill other living modes of God and consume them to keep being the being that you are. So like sadness is the loss of the power, and joy is gaining power to stay alive. And who doesn't want to stay alive? My last one is the question 11 from Leibniz. What are monads to Leibniz? Monads are the base units of individual substances. All monads are synced in perfect union, but they do not communicate with each other. What happens is God programs them into a sequence. They may not end up interacting with each other in this programming. Well, they may end up interacting with each other. And when God actualizes a world, he programs all of the monads. And he programs all of their interactions with each other. He programs the history of their interactions into them. Which means that all monads reflect the history of the universe because they're reflecting all of their interactions and the interactions those things have with the other monads. Of course, this also means that everything happens to be pre-programmed and was destined to happen. Oh my. And that is my midterm.